Let's get it.
This will be the first time I've ever gone with one of my daughters to get theirs pierced.
And this will not be the last time you get clowned for making bad parenting decisions on video. The stupidest thing about Kody is he's so ridiculous in the sense that he thinks he can make this type of tape and send this out and all the audience is going to be so excited that I'm actually trying to do something with my kids. They're just going to ignore the fact that I'm doing something with an adoptive child, but I'm completely ignoring my natural children. Oh, well, like that. And I also enjoy the fact that this guy is pretending as though he's on the WWF wrestling stage. Oh, yeah. And today I'm going to do something I never did, brother. I'm going down and getting my daughter's ears pierced. And you can hear what I'm saying. Like, come on, man. You're not that excited about doing this. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. Because he was so excited and because of the way he's acting and the closeness that he's trying to display with Robin's children, more particularly his adoptive children, it's coming off to a lot of people that is very creepy and they don't like it and he seems very weird and they are starting to make insinuations that the relationship between the two may be a little more nefarious than anybody could possibly imagine. Here's the thing. I don't have evidence that that's the case. And because I can't pull up the receipts, everybody who's ever watched my show know that I like to pull up receipts when I make these kind of statements. I like to back it up. And because I can't necessarily back it up other than a feeling or a supposition or something I may surmise, I'm not prepared to say that this is what's going on. Not just because I want to protect Kody. And I think that's part of it. Like, we should protect Kody and we shouldn't accuse people of this type of crime, especially because it's so heinous. But I also want to be very careful about throwing this kind of accusation out with regard to this young lady. Because if this is something that's not happening to her, then I'm not doing her any service or any favors by saying that this is what happened to her and it looks like this is what happened to her. And I think this is what Kody is doing to her and it's not what's happening. Because this can be just as traumatizing and just as damaging, maybe not just as damaging, but it certainly can be very traumatizing and very damaging to a young person, their self-esteem and their vision of themselves when they're trying to defend themselves against something that never happened to them. So I want to be very mindful of that. Now, as per my usual video format, I'm going to try to make this subject matter as light as I can. I'm not going to necessarily poke holes or joke about this particular type of act or situation. I want to be very clear about that, but I want to try to make it as light as I can. And in fact, because I recognize that so many people may actually have survived this type of trauma, if you want to enjoy my video, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break my video down into two segments. The first segment, I'm going to talk about the alternatives of why Kody is probably just coming off super weird and super cringe with regard to this issue and how he probably didn't do it. And why with the other alternatives that ironically make him look crazily guilty of stuff. But on the second part, I'm going to put up a notification where I'm going to have trigger warning or trigger alert that I'm going to let folks know that I'm going to get into parts of this type of subject matter where we can talk about warning signs and make the connection as to why people may think that this is what's going on with Kody and his adoptive daughter. Okay? Now, if you guys are enjoying the video, I would simply ask that you go ahead and consider giving me that thumbs up. And if you are not yet subscribed, I would simply ask that you consider subscribing. It's free to do. It helps the channel out. It helps me out. And hey, who doesn't want to help a brother out? So go ahead and give me that HBO special, which stands for Help a Brother Out Special, by clicking the subscribe button, ringing the bell for notifications, and you will be notified when I upload new videos and I go live and I can start getting your takes in person and we can have these broader conversations. So come along for the ride. All right. Now, the first thing that I would say is that there could possibly be a very simple reason as to why this whole awkward video even took place. And for me, the reason could be as simple as the production team. The production team miscalculated what they wanted to do. As far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen from my retrospective where I went back to season 1, episode 1, all the way through to season 14, this show has pretty much laid Kody out in one of two ways. One, he's seen as a terrible husband, and two, he's seen as a horrible father. Now, these two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, and they oftentimes are put together. He's a terrible husband and horrible father. So, with that being said, and that information being out there, when people see this type of interaction and his interest and overinterest in this young lady, all of a sudden it starts to send up red flags that something else may be going on. Because he doesn't want to spend time with his kids, why are you so interested in spending time with this kid? So there's that. And aside from the production, or in tandem to the production, there's the issue of him always trying to rehabilitate his image. So part of that rehabilitation would be for him to exhibit what a good parent he is. And because honestly, he doesn't have anybody but Robin's kids available to do this demonstration with. He uses Robin's oldest daughter as a way for him to say, look, I'm a girl dad and I care about women. So when you guys say that I'm a misogynist and I'm a jerk, look how good I am with women. And this is just merely them trying to get back to the first initial season, the first initial episode. Why do I say that? Because I pulled the very first meeting of season 1, episode 1, where we first met Kody. Now I want you to see the comparative difference, not just the fact that both times they're in the car, but also the energy that he tries to exude. Let's take a look.
I like marriage, and I'm a repeat offender, so let's go ahead and go home, and you can meet my family. They're special, and you'll like them. And I'm excited about introducing you to him.
See, that's the whole thing. Like back then he was supposed to be easygoing and friendly, and people didn't really know him. They didn't understand him. So he had a lot of the benefit of the doubt. And I think he's trying to get back to that. And of course, I don't understand, like, even in the first episode, why do you try to make this dude sound like Forrest Gump? I got a lot of wives. I like wives. I like being married. Being married is like a box of chocolates. You open it up, you take a look, it's full of nuts. You're the only nut, Kody. And of course, he sits there and says, well, I have a lot of wives and I've done it a lot. Just because you do something a lot don't mean you're good at it. You just like doing it. And you're failing horribly. 3 out of 4. I mean, that's, you got what, 25% average? That's ridiculous. You have a better chance of playing the lottery, my friend. So with that being said, when you look at it, the energy that he had in that first clip was very comparative to the energy he had in his first appearance. And that's what they're trying to get back to. That's what they're trying to tap into. And when you talk about like the idea of the step parent, they're like, in a general sense, you want a step parent to take in his or her stepchildren as though they were their own children. You want them to fold them into the family seamlessly, so that way when they say, well, do you have any stepchildren? The only steps that I have in my house are the ones that go upstairs or downstairs. That's it. I don't have stepchildren, I have children. That's what you want from this type of bonding and blending of a family. Now with Kody, when we look at the Brown family, because he's not spending time with his natural children, it all of a sudden becomes a thing where he's so invested and so particular and interested in spending time with kids that aren't his. It starts to beg the question, why is he so interested in them and he don't have time for kids? Oh, but it's because they're young and his other kids are adults. Some of them are, but some of them are the exact same ages as Robin's kids. In fact, so much so, the one child, they kept trying to lump them in with Gwen and Gabe by calling them the triplets. Aurora, the same child he took out. So are you doing this with Gwendolyn? Are you trying to have these special moments with your kids? And that begs the question. And this is part of the reason why so many people are looking at him funny. And that's why it's coming off so weird. And another thing, when you have blended families, when the step parents move into that second family, or the parent moves into that second family, a lot of times you could say, well, financially you weren't in a the good a position as you are now when you had your first set of kids. So obviously the second set of kids are going to get a different you than the first set of kids did, because frankly, you didn't have the money when you had them, but you have the money now. So now the stepchildren and or your later children may have a better or different life and lifestyle. That's possible. Not to mention, there may be some competition between being a step parent versus a natural parent. A natural parent, you might take your kids for granted. I talk about that all the time with relationships. I'm not just referring to husband and wife or romantic relationships. Parents and children can take advantage of each other all the time. They take each other for granted. You just assume your parents are going to live forever, but they won't. You assume that your kids will always forgive you and always want to come around and spend time with you. And no matter what you do to them or don't do for them, they will always come back and be grateful. That's not the case. These are relationships just like any other relationship, and these relationships need maintenance and attention just like every other relationship, even romantic relationships, so on and so forth. So, with that being said, Kody doesn't spend any time investing in his natural children. So these kids bear a grudge, especially because when they look at the situation, they realize that if you can do this for Robin's kids, then you're not doing it for me. It's not that you don't know you can do it, or you don't know about special moments, or you don't know about special times. It's just that you choose not to have those special things with me. And that develops resentment, and that's where a lot of the argument or disagreement with Robin's kids and the other kids comes into play. And it's unfortunate that Kody just doesn't see that or understand it. And it certainly doesn't help that you put it all over TV so they can watch you do it. Now, when you talk about the natural competition between a biological parent and the adoptive or bonus parent or step parent, that can have like a residual benefit to the children. For instance, if you have a stepfather like Kody and he's in competition with the biological father because the kids are going out to see him, or the biological father may come back at some point, you want to make sure that your role as the favorite parent is cemented in. So not only will you teach the child how to ride a bike, but you might go out and buy him a new bike. You might not just take them to an amusement park on vacation, but you might take them to Disney World because you want to have the best experience with them as possible, because you realize that somebody else may come in and that person could potentially, just by nature of who they are, natural father, natural mother, biological father, biological mother, come in and say, hey son, hey daughter, daddy, and go running right away from you to that person. So there's that natural incentive for you to try to do more for those adoptive or stepchildren than you would for your biological children. And it's unfortunate because realistically, as Kody would like to say in his opening of the intro, love should be multiplied, not divided. We don't have an expiration date or quantity number on the amount of love that we can give and who we can give it to. So the same way you can sit here and argue with me and say that you can have more than one wife and share your time and attention and love and affection with more than one woman, then you should be able to take that same energy and pour it into your children. You don't have to just focus on one child at a time or one group of kids at a time. You can focus on all your children because after all, that's why you had them, right? And this should be part of your big picture, right? But it's not. And then even as we start talking about the attention given, this is where the bad parenting aspect of it comes in, because it's hard for me to say that you're a good parent when you're only a good parent to 1 or 5 of your 18 children. If you're good to only 5 of your 18 children, you're not even cutting half, my friend. You're a bad parent. If you're not calling and concerned about them the same way you're concerned about the ones you have at home, and then you demand loyalty, you demand respect, you demand honor, you demand all these different things from these kids, you're not going to get it, because honor, respect, and all those things, trust, these things are earned. And if you haven't earned it, simply by somebody saying that this is what should happen, just doesn't work. This also ties into the step-parent dynamic, because in some cases, when you have a mother who is trying to blend her kids into an existing family, she may very well, Robin, will look at her kids and say, no matter what happens, that man over there, that's your new father. You will respect him. You will listen to him. If he tells you something, you'll do what he says. If he tells you to jump, you say how high. In fact, I want your feet off the ground when you ask them. That's what I want. And then they're instructed to do those things. So when the step parent comes in, he may get a little bit of the fugazi because these kids are trying to work to be in the family, where the other kids already feel like they're in the family and they don't necessarily feel like they have to do this, behind kissing in order for them to prove their value to the family. Whereas with Robin, I'm sure she could look at her kids and say, don't mess this up for me. So with that being said, it puts the kids in a situation where they're always grateful for Kody. They're always thankful to Kody. They look to Kody and they're so grateful for his advice. They seek him out. This creates, whether we like it or not, kind of a weakness in the kids that I'm not a big fan of, particularly if you watch how the young lady is portrayed on the show. It seems like she's relying too much on Kody for the age that she is. You should be looking for guidance and not for direction. At a certain age, we as parents should be teaching our kids to survive without us, not rely upon us. Because as Kody and Robin said when they tried to adopt the kids, at any point, something could happen to you as a parent. And what do you do when your adult kids are relied upon you to make decisions for them? In addition to that, when you raise your kids that way, when they go out and they start looking for mates and they start looking for husbands, wives, etc., what happens is they're no longer looking for a partner. Instead, they're looking for a parent. They're looking for somebody that's going to come in and take responsibility for them and tell them what to do, how to do it, when to do it, how to feel about it, etc., etc. You're breeding followers. You're not breeding strong, independent women, as you guys like to say so often on the show. What you're breeding is followers and submissive people. Now, with that being said, a lot of times what can happen when you have somebody who is such a nice person, they kind of rely on the fact or idea that the person that they're relying on is going to look out for their best interest and always hold them to the highest esteem and have respect for them and do what's in their best interest because they're always looking out for them because they love them and care about them. The truth of the matter is you can set your kid up because they may very well rely on somebody who is not worthy of that kind of responsibility. So you want to be able to teach them to think for themselves and act for themselves when necessary. All right, as promised, here's the part where I'm going to give the trigger alert. Thank you guys for watching up until this point, because the next segment is going to talk more about the warning signs and maybe get a little more detailed. And if you've experienced stuff, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, and I want you to feel welcome in coming and having a conversation. Thanks. Don't forget to leave your thumbs up on the way out, and I'll see you in the next video. For everybody else, guys, let's get it. Now, when rubber meets the road, I think that part of the challenge is when we look at the warning signs of what's happening, because again, I'm not accusing Kody of anything, and I'm hesitant to say that he's guilty of anything, and this is what's going on. I'm merely saying that for the audience members who are concerned, here are some reasons that I think they may have these concerns. The first thing is the interest. When you have intense interest in a young person, then all of a sudden it strikes people as a little odd. Now, how do we say that Kody has this intense interest in this particular person? Because he's isolated and cut off most of his other kids who are about the same age as this child. And so you're cutting off your natural children so that you can hang out with some of these other children exclusively. That gives people room to pause. And again, there could be a million reasons as to why this is occurring. I'm just merely saying why people may be nervous about it. The second thing, when you talk about isolation. Now, one of the things that happens in any abusive relationship is that there is a segment of that relationship where the person who is going to do the abusing will try to isolate that target person. They want to cut them off from friends and families, from strangers or anybody in the community who may look at that relationship and say, hey, something's not right. Hey, that's not normal. Hey, that's not how that person should be treating you. Hey, this isn't love. This isn't what love looks like, etc., etc., etc. So that in and of itself may be a point where you look at it and say, well, it just seems as though, it seems weird to me that Kody and Robin have spent extra effort in isolating Robin and her kids away from the rest of the family. Because when you isolate people, and part of the reason why it's so dangerous is because when you isolate people from other folks within the community, in the area, you take and you're instilling your values into that person. So anything that you're doing or anything that happens within that isolated environment becomes normalized. So if, for instance, if you had a household where every day for 3 meals a day you eat nothing but Captain Crunch cereal, and everybody in the house has like 18 cavities on the 3 teeth that they have left, then that's a normal thing. And somebody else who might walk into that family may say, hey, don't you guys know what a vegetable is? You ever heard of a thing called broccoli? And that might be a point that they make, which will enlighten that person. So you want to keep them isolated and separated. Also, with this particular situation in this particular environment, you have, with that isolation, you have a reliance on, in this case, the father, because of the finances, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, etc., etc. This young person is relying on him, and he has a lot of control over her life. So he's helping her to make judgments on what's normal and what's not normal. In addition to that, like I said, you don't have anyone to talk to, and this in and of itself creates a relationship or a bond between the one person and the other person. And for the most part, it almost creates a Romeo and Juliet-esque romance between these two folks. They don't understand our love. They don't know our love. And it's us against the world, and everybody else in the world is evil. Now, how does this apply to the sister-wife family? In the sister-wife family, like I said, Robin and Kody have isolated these kids away since season 1. When they moved down from Montana to Utah, Robin lived around the corner. When they moved out to Las Vegas, they had a short period where they lived in the house with the rest of the family in that vacation home. Soon after that, Robin lived miles away in a house by herself, and they split the family up once again. They moved to Vegas. Even though they were in a cul-de-sac, Robin kept her family separate from the rest of the family by starting to bring in nannies and other people to watch her kids. So, and that held on through to Arizona. So she's always had that going on. Next, you have the special bonds and the special relationships. When you have these special relationships, like you doing something with this person that you've never done with anybody else, that becomes something special. It's a special moment. It's a special time. And you're not interested in having these special moments with anybody else but this one person. That gives people room for pause. Again, this could just simply be a public relations mistake and a miscalculations on the part of TLC as well as the Robin and Kody when they're trying to recondition their image, but it just comes off bad because it makes people pay attention. The next thing is the idea of the secrets. As a parent, I don't like secrets. My kids don't have secrets from me. Something happens at school with one of the adults, one of them adults talk to you. I want you to come home and tell me what they said, how they said it, and what's going on. You don't go off with nobody, and no matter what happens, no matter what you do or what you're involved with, you can always come home and talk to me. There's nothing that you're going to do that's so bad that we can't have a conversation. There are no secrets. And part of instilling that and letting people know that you're around and that you're involved is what helps with the secret stuff. Because when you have these secrets, that's how people are able to operate in the dark. And again, part of this is we got to start dragging a lot of these issues into the light so that they can no longer survive in darkness. Because in the darkness, they not only survive, but they thrive. So we have to pull this into the light by having these kind of conversations and having these kind of discussions where we're sharing information. So with that being said, Robin and Kody have established an environment of secrecy. When you look at season 1, when they first went out and they were looking for the dress with Robin, and Kody, like Robin went out with the OG3 and she said, oh, we're going to pick the dress. And she's up there sashaying, shantan and snapping with the dress to show the women. And everybody's excited about it. And the women, Mary, Janelle, Christine, thought they were all picking a dress. Turns out Kody and Robin had a secret. Kody went out and picked Robin's dress. When Ari was born and when she was pregnant with Saul, that was a secret. There were secrets surrounding that. When she got pregnant with Ari, there were secrets surrounding that. There were secrets concerning the Sister Wife's Closet and what Robin had planned on doing with Sister Wife's Closet, just between her and Kody. How many times have we watched the show where it was supposed to be something that nobody else knew and their wives were supposed to be finding out for the first time, and you could look at Robin's face and her expression when Kody said something that you knew for sure that she already knew about it, and this is a discussion that they already had, but they were keeping a secret. And this is an environment of secrecy. So it wouldn't be much of a stretch for me to believe that if Robin was talking to her kids, she would tell her kids, don't go over next door and tell Janelle, Christine, or Mary what's going on in my house. What happens here is a secret. This is between us. Kody, the same thing. This is a secret. And when you become a family that keeps a lot of secrets, you become subject to people developing feelings or intuitions that you may be doing other things that you may or may not be doing. That would be a reason why people feel funny about this. Also, there comes a point where where there's a test, and unfortunately, because we don't know what's going on, we won't know about a test situation until after the accusations explode or the arrests are made or whatever the case may be. And all the test is just basically when you're keeping these secrets and you have this special relationship, you're keeping these secrets and all this is going on, you eventually start to test or try the secret, because the secret is no good if they're willing to tell the secret. So it won't be the big thing. It'll be the little thing. And this is why I say that I don't like secrets with my kids. It'll be something small. Hey, you want to sip of this? Hey, why don't you try to smoke that? Why don't you try to do this? Or why don't you try to do that? And you try to get them to break the rules a little bit. Because one, you're trying to see if they're willing to do it, if they're willing to step outside the rules. Two, you're trying to see how strong the secret is. If you do this and they go back and tell their parents, then it's no bueno. Or they tell somebody in the community or whatever, it's no bueno. So you want to try to maintain that secret, and that's part of the test. And every time you build a secret, you want to build a little test. Secret test, secret test, secret test. And then continue to build that special relationship until finally you find yourself in a situation where, and this is part of the reason why I said that I don't want my kids to ever feel like they can't come back and tell me things, because you can have somebody do so much dirt that you can use the dirt to blackmail them into doing additional dirt. So you do something wrong, and then it's supposed to be a secret, but if you don't do the next thing I asked you to do, then I'm going to go back and tell people what you did wrong, and you're going to really be in trouble for that, because you not only did you do it, but you kept it a secret. And that becomes a problem. And then because you're the one that creates the normalization, you're the one who has them isolated, then they start to think that anything that happens or that they do is their fault. And this is part of the thing. And this is part of what feeds into the idea that I think so many people are starting to develop as to why they're ready to make these accusations against Kody and this young lady. Now I'll simply ask this. If you guys are going to leave your takes down below, please be mindful that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys are survivors of this type of situation. Let's just take that into account. Let's be good to one another. Let's have the conversation, because we are the ones who have to look out for our kids. All right? That's my take. I'm James. This has been My Take on Reality, and I'm out. 'Cause I've been living life right like I